Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm the festival director of Out on Film. This is our 34th year of presenting stories for, by, and about our community and its allies. This is our first hybrid festival. We have a slight number of films in cinema, and we also have a really robust, great set of programming on virtual as well. So today's program is Everything Under the Rainbow Shorts 2. It's a great program, one of my favorites of the year. So I'm going to go around the room and let everybody introduce themselves, and we'll talk about their films, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Holly, do you want to start?
Hi, I'm Holly. I'm from the UK, and I'm the director of The Nailing of an Older Woman.
Thank you. Megan.
Hello, I'm Megan. I currently live in LA, and I'm the writer, director, and editor of As the Winter Turns to Fall.
Great. Okay. Solomon.
Hi there. I'm also in the UK, in London, and I'm the writer, producer, and sound designer of The Nailing of an Older Woman.
Okay, great. And Luke.
Hi, I'm Luke. I'm the writer, director, and co-producer of Someone Else.
Great. Well, this truly is a universal panel because we have UK, Australia, and Los Angeles, and Atlanta. So literally, we are all over the world. Thank you all for joining us today. We love your films. So I'll just start out with, if just basic questions. If you all could just tell me a little bit about your film, when you made it, how long it took. We'll start with why don't we start with Luke?
So my film is called Someone Else. It's about a woman who, I guess, finds herself attracted to a man for the first time in her life, and it's like a very foreign feeling to her. And I guess I shot the film in like quite a long time ago, like 2019.
Oh, wow.
And then due to COVID, there was a long post-production period of trying to, because I live in Australia, we had kind of endless lockdowns, particularly in Melbourne. It was like 6 months
Oh,
of quite long lockdown, which meant that all the post-production things had to be put on hold. But yeah, the film, yeah, kind of came about as a hypothetical for me, but then I came to realize that the hypothetical was like me working out that I myself would say that I'm attracted to more people than I thought when I was making it.
Okay, great. All right. Megan.
Hello. My film is called As the Winter Turns to Fall, and it's basically a non-linear story about a couple kind of coming together and falling apart at the same time. I started writing it in 2020 and then kind of got thrown off track. And then we actually shot it at the beginning of 2021. And yeah, I feel like it's my first like actual short, so I'm really proud of it and happy to be here representing it. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Holly and Solomon.
Solomon, do you want to start off as the writer?
Yeah, sure. I started writing The Nailing of an Older Woman just after COVID had started, and I began to question, like, where are my grandparents? Because I didn't really know them. And it was, everybody's biggest concerns at that time were their grandparents, because of how COVID affects people of different ages. And yeah, I just started investigating that. And that's sort of what drew me to actually learning that maybe there are more reasons why my parents might have kept them distant from me than just the LGBTQ plus aspect.
Okay.
And you kind of just assume that it's all that sometimes unless you do some digging. But yeah, and then we went on to filming, which I'll hand over to Holly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did this pretty much entirely during COVID for our uni final film. And yeah, so Solomon's a good mate of mine, a really good scriptwriter, and this was the second time that I got to direct one of his films. Really, really exciting project, especially because it dealt with dealt with like trans people and transphobia, which was really, really interesting. And someone wanted somebody with some experience being trans to direct it. So I was very excited to get on board for this film.
Great. So Luke, you went. Did you have you gone? Luke,
What was that? Sorry.
Have we gone around the room yet?
Yeah.
Okay. We've been a lot of Zoom to this. So you referenced this earlier, but how personal were these stories for you, Luke? I mean, in terms of, you mentioned story, but how personal of a story was this for you?
I guess the early versions of my script were like a more traditional love story
Sure.
that I wrote during my first relationship,
Mhm.
which I think was just me being like very in love and wanting to get that down and make something out of it. And then I tried to like slowly complicate the script and add new elements, which kind of led to it being an exploration of bisexuality with the love story attached. And then I guess for me, in making it and writing the story of a woman whose attractions were more complicated than she herself understood them to be, and
Yeah.
kind of the process of learning that you are more unpredictable than you might assume was something that I was going through at the time and experiencing, and so yeah, I kind of looked back on it and the writing of it as being me kind of working through those complications that I felt with attraction and very, the general categories we put ourselves in terms of sexualities and genders, etc.
Great. Okay. Holly and Solomon.
For writing, I think the most personal part was almost for my mother, because there are a lot of key details in the film which are in the set design, and things which I didn't necessarily write in because I felt maybe if it was a longer film we could fit them in, but also they were quite personal, because when you sort of do this investigating to find the broader reasons of why there's any sort of family separation like that, it can get quite serious. So yeah, this sort of navigating around that was very personal, and trying to input as much as I could without overloading the script.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, for me it was more on the like trans aspect of things, because like I'm guessing, as we all know, there's not enough trans representation in the media, and being able to make a film that really portrayed and just a trans woman living her life, and just not being a big deal for her,
Okay,
and actually being an authentic trans woman on screen.
sure. Okay, Megan.
I think when I originally started writing it, it was a few months after a breakup. But I think it kind of developed into something completely, like, it's not completely based off of a relationship or anything like that. And also, I really wanted to have lesbian representation in film. I feel like there's not enough of that. And I was doing a lot of research about lesbian representation in media and how people kind of mishandle it. The amount of like lesbian love stories or relationship stories are kind of a mess. So I was inspired to make something else. But yeah.
That's a perfect segue into my next question, because I wanted to ask you all about LGBTQ representation. When did you all first see someone that you related to or that you identified with, on TV or screen, and how has that propelled you as a filmmaker? And we'll start with Megan, since you had sort of gotten into that just a moment ago.
I don't know about like, I think watching Orange is the New Black,
Mm-hmm.
and just I don't know if that's the best representation, but I was like, wait a second, like you can be gay, so that's kind of cool.
Okay.
And I think when I got to college I went to college in New York, so I was just surrounded by queer people and more accepting people, and I started to accept myself more, and I was more interested in making projects that show people like me and things like that on
Okay.
TV and media.
Okay, great. Luke?
It's hard to say, yeah, if I think I was a pretty neurotic young person. So I honestly felt like very represented watching like really annoying, like talky drama films about people who are neurotic, and maybe the queer stuff that I don't know if like Brian De Palma is queer coded, but I feel like a lot of his films have a very sensual kind of like erotic sensibility that I really responded to. And I guess more in like what Megan said, going to university, and I came from like a small country town in Australia, going to the big city in Melbourne, and being surrounded by those people was such a formative experience for me, and it kind of made me pretty certain that I wanted to, in every film I make, include that part of myself that I found.
Okay. And Holly and Solomon.
Shall I go first? So for me, I think growing up, I saw a lot of shows with the gay side character, and probably so many that I couldn't really pinpoint which one I saw first or took in first. But what really hit me was Sense8, because there was just so much in it and lead characters in it, and that was really important. And I identified with that because when I was a kid, I never saw any of it. And, you know, occasionally you'd see two people who are same sex holding hands, and that would sort of confirm that it was a real thing for me before anything on TV did, because it took me so long to actually find shows that really focused on it.
Okay.
And sort of went in on depth.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I can't like specifically figure out like a specific person or character, because I was really lucky to have, so my aunt is gay, and then we also had some family friends that were gay, and so my family just kind of never mentioned it as being anything different.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until I sort of started engaging in media, and I think it was actually through like anime and looking at different like romance animes in that sort of respect, that I was like, oh, this is actually like a thing in that sort of in that respect. And then until I moved to like London and experienced more people of different just different sexualities, different genders, and then looking at cartoons like Steven Universe really inspired me to sort of come out as non-binary, and just seeing more characters that don't fit into the gender binary.
Okay. In terms of the film you just made, or any other films you've made, do you look at short films? Do you look at them as potentially films that can later be expanded into features, or do you pretty much say, this is the story that I'm telling, and I'm going to just contain it right here and then move on to my next project? So we'll start with Luke.
I think with shorts, like some of it is just a purely logistical thing where it's like it's very hard to raise enough money to make a feature at the best of times.
Exactly.
But I also, I think it's really hard to say. There's some scripts I've written as shorts that I have started out as feature ideas that I wanted to like condense and try to like pitch, and then someone else was always envisioned as a short. So I think it's like very case to case basis, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Solomon and Holly.
So initially writing it was just a short, but then of course I kept learning more and more about maybe things that I could have added or about the script, just from investigating my family, who are probably a little bit tired of that now. But I think there's potential for The Nailing of Another Woman to be a feature, especially given the concept of when you build an image of someone in your head based solely on what you've either assumed or been told by them.
Mhm.
And I think if you were to cut back and forth between the image of who the grandmother is as more information is given, that definitely adds enough content for it to be a long feature. And I think it would be a great idea as well, because it's COVID is one of those big event historic things that get remade again and again and again and played again and again and again in film. So I think it really, really caters for that.
Okay.
I think for me it depends, because a lot of my ideas I like to sort of really enrich like the worlds that the characters live in, and then I end up having way too much information to squeeze into a short film. But yeah, this one could definitely be a really interesting feature film, because there's some really, really deep, interesting characters in there. And then I had a short that I wrote a while ago, which my initial idea was for it to be this big feature film. And then once I really like zoned in on what the film was about and wrote it as this like 7-minute short, I was like, actually, I don't want it to be any longer than this. The story fits perfectly in those 7 minutes.
Okay. All right. And Megan.
I think it's kind of difficult to go one way or the other, because I think it is kind of dependent on the director and like what you're trying to do with the film and things like that. I think my film it's 10 minutes long, so it is short. I can't see it being a feature, unless I think like the timing of a film, like whether it's short or long, it definitely affects the storyline and like what people are supposed to focus on. Like Holly said, kind of diving into characters more and everything like that it enriches the story, but it can also change how the director and writer wants you to like feel after watching it, if that makes sense. But that being said, if anyone came up to me and said, we want to turn your short into a feature film and we're going to pay for it, I would not say no. So that's what I'm going to say.
We've talked about COVID a little bit, but how has COVID affected you as artists, over the last year and a half? We'll start with Holly and Solomon.
For me, it's been quite inspiring. I think at the beginning, a lot of people were like, oh no, we can't write about what's happening now. And I was like, well, if none of you are going to do it, then I guess I can. Because I feel like everyone was so panicked that everybody was going to do it. So actually, we didn't get many COVID-based films made in our year group. And I think it was the only one, which kind of worked out in my favor a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, for me, it just kind of pushed me to make more and more content. And then I see a restriction and I'm just like, brilliant. Sometimes you need a restriction to kind of inspire a new way around something, and then you might work a way that you've never worked before. So for example, on the balcony in The Nailing of an Older Woman, I had to do all of the sound recording without being on that balcony and set up prop microphones everywhere, because we were only allowed 3 people on it max because of the restrictions.
Wow.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting filming on that set, and most of like the locations was quite small as well, so keeping the amount of people down and just finding ways around shooting some of the scenes, which yeah, does prove some really, really good problem solving. I think for me, like as a writer, I found like writing COVID really hard, just because for like my favorite place to write is in cafes. If I can't go to a cafe, my mind just will not get itself in that like writing headspace. And I think it is really important that like creative people have access to like areas and spaces to like get creative, even like going to a museum or going to the theatre, going to the cinema. It's all like ways to get inspiration, and being cut off from all of that was really, really hard.
Okay, Megan.
I think what affected my film the most was just COVID regulations and things like that, because we only had one location that we shot at, and it was an Airbnb, and we had to be very careful about like how many people we let in.
Sure.
So everyone there was kind of doing 10 jobs at once. And there's like a party scene in my film, and we had to make it look like there were like people at this party, but there wasn't. So I think that was very difficult. And in terms of just being an artist in general, I feel like COVID kind of forced me to be as resourceful as possible and making content like in my apartment or in my basement with like random objects around the house, and just sitting at Adobe After Effects or Premiere for 8 hours trying to make something look good.
Okay.
So I think I think it definitely pushed my limitations and boundaries as an artist. So.
And Luke?
I think like in terms of the film, it definitely like doubled or tripled the amount of time the post-production would have took, which was frustrating but necessary. And in terms of the art, COVID was like a weirdly unproductive time for me. I found it really hard to be artistic. It was a lot of isolation, a lot of reading, but I think it gave me time to think about what I wanted to do next, and yeah, it was contemplative, if not the most creative time.
Okay. So last question. So where are you right now in your festival run, and what are the future plans for your film? We'll start with Luke.
So we're about like midway through the festival run. We've now shown at I think 4 different festivals in America. Hopefully some more later in the year. Hopefully a couple in Australia. From there, I'm hoping to, once the festival run is over, just like be able to put it up online and get people to watch it.
Okay.
Because that's why you make the movies.
Exactly. Thank you. Megan.
I think I'm probably midway through, maybe 1/3 of the way through with the festival run. And yeah, same with Luke. I'm just excited for people to be able to watch it. So.
Okay. And Holly and Solomon.
So I think this is the first festival that it's been screened at.
Oh, nice.
Apart from the university screening, where we got best screenplay, which was pretty cool. So for my festival plan, it's very COVID related, so I wanted everything to happen very fast. So I took out a lot of overdrafts, and I paid all of the higher prices to get into festivals screened sooner, because I want people to see this in this moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I think we finished filming in mid-June. Yeah, we had a reshoot as well after the university screening, so I just tried to make it all happen really fast. But yeah, I focus mostly on LGBTQ plus festivals, but then I've also submitted it to all of them that are like BAFTA qualified and Academy Award qualified, and this one covers both, so that's quite exciting.
Good. Well, we're honored to have it for we're honored to be the first festival to screen it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I entrust pretty much all of the film festival submissions and everything to Solomon because he knows how to do that much better than I can. And I trust him with that. But yeah, there's another film that we worked on for our final film that we did together, which we're still trying to get through post-production because I decided to write a sci-fi film or a short film, and it was fun, but it's now proving very difficult to edit. But we're hoping then to get that to follow this one in the festival run so that we sort of stay in that circuit for a while. So that should be really interesting.
Okay. All righty. The program is Everything Under the Rainbow Shorts 2. It's one of my favorite programs of the year. Thank you so much to our filmmakers who submitted this year. And thanks to our filmmakers who have been part of this conversation. Holly, Solomon, Luke, Megan, it's been a pleasure talking to you, meeting you. And I certainly hope that we can meet each other in the future. And I'm sure our patrons are going to love your films.
Thank you.
Thank you all so very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll let you know when this is online. Thanks so much.
Awesome.